All right, welcome back, everybody. I am here with the most precious person that I have met in a while. I just absolutely loved her from the very first time I talked to her on the phone, which was just last week. And she sent me a message about 2 weeks earlier saying that she is finally ready at 65 years old to share her story with the world. She was inspired by Cheryl Beck and Jesse and maybe others. I'll find out. I purposely didn't. I just called her. I got her vibe. She said a couple of things that just made me so happy that I was like, okay, I need to share the space with her to tell her story. So welcome, Kimball Davis.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's just an absolute honor and blessing to be here. Thank you.
And you were surrounded when we talked yesterday. We were all casual, and you didn't have the beautiful tree behind you. And you mentioned that that tree has a name. So tell me about that.
Yes, I love trees. I'm in the mountains and I'm surrounded literally by just like woods everywhere. And this tree has the my bird feeder. And so I look at this tree all the time, and I just been sitting underneath it for a while here the past 4 or 5 months, and people might think this crazy, but she told me her name is Maria. Like, I didn't name her, you know. It's like, okay, that's
I
beautiful.
I
And
absolutely love that. I have trees that told me that I was going to get a certain house, and it was just an imprint that I felt, and I guess that's God, telling
it
me
is.
this is your house, girl. And so I can relate, but none of them have individually told me. They kind of spoke as a group, I guess.
Yeah, I've never had this happen before. So it was a new experience, it was a new experience.
I
So, yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, I would love to know from your perspective. Go ahead and tell me like some of the people who have been your role models in this whistleblower world. Who has inspired you?
Oh, wow. Gosh, there's so many, but the ones particularly on your show, Jesse, Miss Beck, Kathy O'Brien, and Tom from The Matrix,
Yeah.
just to name a few. Just powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. And I was like, wow, wow.
Yes. And so what
Coming
made
out.
you decide to reach out to me?
Well, I had been watching your show, and I pray and I, watch a bunch of different people that kind of do this work, but just didn't resonate, and I kept hearing God say, you'll find the right one. You know, and one day, like the day that I contacted you, it was like God said, this is the one. And I was like, oh, okay. That's why I kept being drawn, over and over and over again, but I'm like the kind of person that has to make sure, like I'm just not going to say this to anybody. It's got to be the right thing.
Right.
And because it's important, you know,
It is very
and
important.
yeah, and I feel your energy. It's beautiful. And I was like, I trust you, and you're a good interviewer, and so compassionate. Compassion is one of my key words, in life. And I was like, okay. And I watched you do the other interviews, and I was like, yes, yes, I
Yay.
trust
Well, I'm honored and I love talking to you. And I love your name, Kimball Davis. It sounds like a movie star.
you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
And you are, do you still play the piano? Because I know you said you played for like 17 years or something like that.
Yeah, I had a traumatic brain injury from my abuser, and I can't read music anymore. And I never learned how to play by ear, but I, sort of delved into other instruments and was in bands and would sing and things like that, in my younger years. But it's really interesting. I found some people found some books for me with my name on them, Kimball. It's kind of crazy. And they have in them the keys, and they're colored. They're color coded. And I've been looking at them, and I feel like somehow my brain is going to be able to access that old knowledge with the color coding. It's just like, wow, and it even had my name on it.
Cool.
So,
That's well, you know what's so cool about that is my friend Tarina Picarello, she is kind of a brain specialist, like therapist, and she was saying that there's certain people that have a hard time reading unless they put a colored filter over the words. And for some reason, then they can read, which I just think is just magical. Like that's changing someone's life. It's really, really cool.
yes,
So I hope you do get it back. That would be fabulous.
yes. I just have to get a keyboard now. So that's what I'm working on next.
Yeah.
It's getting a keyboard and doing it. Just doing it.
Yay, I
I'm going to
love
do
it.
it.
I just realized that I don't have my notebook that I had written down the things that you said. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my screen down for a second, but I would love for you to start sharing from the beginning and I'll be able to hear you. I'm just going to go in the other room and I'm going to grab that, but I'll be right back. But go ahead and start sharing like where if you want to start chronologically or however you want to begin. You decide. I'll be right back, but you go ahead.
Okay. 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 Well, my parents were 15 and 17 when they gave me up for adoption. And I was in a home for 2.5 years. And it was really weird because the place was called Ghoul's Cottage. How creepy is that?
Right.
And so I was adopted by a massive pedophile and Mason, and very, evil, dark human being. And sort of this whole family was pretty dark. And so I had some pictures I want to go get, and I'll run back inside real quick and get them. But you
Okay.
can kind of see when I was a child the pain and anguish on my face. And so at 3, they, interesting enough, they named me Kimball and they bought me a piano. And I started playing piano at 3. I just sat down and so that there, in amongst that, there was those good things. Cause I think that piano, that helped me a lot to
Yeah.
keep my sanity in amongst those, cause I didn't get out of it till I was 18. And he was, my mother was very abused, so she couldn't, do anything to help me. But they put me in fashion shows, and my mother, she unfortunately she played her part in it, and they kind of paraded me around, and but you can see that I was very unhappy. I was like an object to her as well as to him. Although I don't remember her doing any type of sexual abuse or anything like that. But and they raised me in the Catholic Church, which is seriously demonic stuff. Not all Catholics, but the premise behind it, we know, as we've learned. And uh, so and I didn't, remember a lot of stuff until I was about 33. Um, but I'm trying to sort of like give you a timeline here.
Yeah.
So I was with them till I was like 18, but let me go back to some of the childhood things. So
And let me interrupt too because this is the first time you're doing this. So
yeah, it is.
everybody's got grace for you, girl. You can go out of order, you can cry, you can do whatever you want. We're just holding space for you. And then also I wanted to share really quick what I had grabbed this notebook for was the thing that you said that gave me chills to my bones was that you said in your whole life you haven't been this happy and it's because of the truth coming out. And that
Yeah,
almost made me tear up. I was like, wow, like I started welling up because I just think that's so powerful. And then the other thing that you said is that this can happen to any family, anytime, any moment, and that we all need to be listening closely to children that are claiming their parents or their somebody is a perpetrator for them. And I think those are just both beautiful, beautiful things. So I'll turn it back over to you. But you take your time, you go in any order. I'm in no hurry. We're good.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, it is a little daunting the first time. Uh, so we had a motel at a small town, and they had a strip club. So it was really crazy. We had a restaurant, and then we had a motel, and there was a strip club. So he was trafficking, and he was sort of part of that mafia thing for real, but on a smaller scale, and and he used to take me to the motel to abuse me, to the motel rooms, and um, I was abused by, and some of the maids at the motel, and which was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And but you mentioned, I think it was maybe Jesse, that they sort of get a smell for you, and I had a lot of shame about some of these later abuses, like, oh my God, but when Jesse said that, I was like, wow, that makes perfect sense, because they kind of know they can go in for that. It makes you more vulnerable, And then I had a doctor who my mom took me to that molested me, and I was at a Catholic school, and my first encounter with Christ was when I was 5, and I was having migraine headaches, and I was having kidney infections. It was because I was being so seriously abused. And of course, the nuns, were like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just acting up," and I'm 5, you know. And so I went into the church, and I lit a candle, and I asked, Jesus, I said, please help me, And he said, I will be with you always. You can always call on me. I'm always here. And like throughout my life, God and that Christ consciousness has healed me, has brought me back, has helped me. And I'm going to cry because it's so powerful.
That's joy. That's the good. Those are the good tears.
Yeah, it's the beautiful cry, and I'm so grateful. But it's a choice that I made, for whatever reason. I mean, and I think children in their innocence, they make these choices, and then adults say, oh, that's this, that's that. And we have to stop that. We really do. Children are so wise. They come into this world as beautiful, innocent souls. And from all levels of society, we suppress them and try to, put them in a box. We don't listen to them. We tell them they're imagining stuff, and they're not. They're not imagining this stuff, And so for, a long time, this kept happening, and I grew up in...
Was it just in your family, or was it also the nuns in the church and other things?
Well, the nuns were mean to me, but they weren't abusing me physically.
Okay. Good.
Mentally, yes. Unfortunately, yes, that was true. And they were not hearing me. They did not believe me. They wouldn't look into it, No. And I was too afraid, to tell my family. If the nuns didn't believe me, who was going to believe me, So I didn't speak about it until I was like 33 to my family. But so we lived at the beach for a while. Then we moved into town, and he didn't have a place to take me anymore. So he built a room in our backyard that had a bathroom and a bed. And that's where he took me. And I didn't even remember a lot of this, Carmen, for years, And yeah, and because I guess he didn't, he couldn't do it in front of my mother because we had, we were kind of middle class, upper middle class, nice home, but nothing fancy, just kind of down home, simple. So it was not a really big house. It wasn't a room he could take me where she couldn't hear what was going on. So
Did you
that's
have
why he built.
siblings? Did you have siblings
No,
growing
I
up?
did no siblings, just me. And I ended up being, the housekeeper. I was the one that cooked the meals, and my mother became very ill when I was about 11, and so I had to take care of her, and I had to clean the house, and I had to cook the meals, and I had to take the beatings because I'm just that kind of person. When he would come home, I would take the beatings and hide her because I just felt compelled to do that because I was stronger than she was for whatever reason. I don't understand some of these things, but
No, it's so true. It's so
that's the
true.
way it was.
It's not about age. It's about maturity, and in some cases, spiritual maturity. And you had your candle when you were 5, and you and Jesus were a team, and you had your piano, and your mom, I guess, didn't have those things.
She didn't. And I felt a lot of compassion for her. And I'll mention that word in everything a lot because it's key. It's really key.
Yeah.
And I went through high school and I tried, my cousin tried to get me out a few times to escape, when I was like 12, 13, because it was just getting worse and worse. I mean, it was always bad, but the beatings were getting worse. Like the physical beatings with the belt and upside my head and chasing me with a knife and just some crazy stuff when he would get drunk.
Yeah.
And but like I said, I couldn't leave my mother. I was like, oh my God, she'll get killed, and then I'll feel terrible for the rest of my life that it was all my fault. And so, when she died, I was almost 18, and that was like, wow. I was like, okay, I can get out of here. And he molested me one more time when I was in college. He
Wow.
came to see me, and I was like 18. And I didn't remember some of this until later. So at 19, I had my first nervous breakdown, and I put myself in a place for about 8 months, and my cousin came and got me. And so I got out and I moved back down to the little Tybee Island where I was from, which I've always felt drawn to Tybee, the beach, and just wow, so much beauty down there. Even in amongst all the craziness.
Yes.
I could always go to the beach and talk to God and Jesus and be like, okay.
All is well.
Oh,
Right here, right now. Everything is okay.
yes, yes, yes. And so I met my first husband, and he was from the farm in Summertown, Tennessee. And so we went there, and I had my first child. Ina Mae Gaskin delivered my first child. And a lot of people know her because she's a massive, beautiful midwife. And spiritual midwifery and all of that. And it was amazing because my first experience with childbirth was not painful. It was beautiful. And some people say I'm crazy as all get out, but I knew how to do it. I knew how to ride the waves. I knew how to connect with God, with, that spirit, and just ride those waves, and hold on.
I
You
love
know,
it. You got a little bit of hippie in you, girl.
yes, 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 yes. And I did it. And it was challenging, yes, but it was not what everybody says that it's supposed to be, you
Right.
know. And so had my first child, and I married a man much older than me, which was really creepy. And I woke up one day and went, oh my God, I'm like into this whole weird father thing again. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
this
I
is
mean,
not
you were programmed to be that way.
most definitely. And so had my second child, and my first daughter's name is Corrine. And I'll give you a quick reason why I named her. I grew up in the age where, they called people the N word, and they treated them in the South really bad. And my family was like that. And and I was raised by black women. Really, they were my real mother.
Yeah.
My real mother, or my adopted mother, she was never a mother to me.
Right.
These black women were, and one of them was named Corrine, Miss Corrine, and I loved her so much, and she always protected me and sheltered me, and she was always somebody I could go to and hang on her, her skirt, and she would be like, "It's okay, I'm here.
That's
You're going to get through this. So that's why I named my first daughter that. And that Corrine is in the Bible as well. So.
that's awesome.
But so I had my second son, Elijah Blue, and um, I lost a child in between that. His name was Ezra, and I'll tell you a little bit about that real quick. I was 8 months pregnant, and I went to the hospital, and they said that the baby died, and I later realized that the baby did not die. They took my baby. Like, we now learning that they do this in hospitals, okay? And so, but again, I have not learned a lot of this until
Recent. Hmm.
recently. So anyway, so got pregnant with Elijah Blue and had him at home on Tybee Island with the midwife. And it was beautiful. Again, just, amazing, just beautiful. And so then met my second husband, and he was an alcoholic. So I was kind of back in that weird thing again. But after about a year, because I was still young, in my 20s, and I was like, wow. Sorry. Sorry. I was like, wow, because I didn't know he was an alcoholic. That's how naive I was. And then one day I realized, wow, this is what is happening. And so it took me a couple of years to get out of that, relationship. But we had another son. I had another son named Adam Ross, and had him at home on Tybee as well. And the building where I had my children, it's still there. It's just wild. And so had him, like I said, had him at home. And so got divorced. And for about 10 years, this last husband just was a maniac, made my life a living hell. And but I had to go to work for the first time. Like, I worked at home. I painted houses with, my first husband, and cleaned houses with my second. And I've always sort of kind of done entrepreneur stuff, whatever. And anyway, so I had 3 kids, and I was like, wow, so had to get a place, and did. And, I worked at a health food store for about 5 years, and it wasn't enough. So we were really struggling. And so I found a place where I could go bartend and make tremendous amounts of money. And it first started out as banquet bartending. And then I was also cleaning this music venue called the Night Flight Cafe, which has a tremendous amount of history in Savannah about it. Great music. I was cleaning the band house, and I was cocktail waitressing at night. So I was working day and night. And when I first, I was vegan for about 10 years. I was vegetarian for about 5 years after that. And then it just got to be too much with working 2 jobs. And, I couldn't think like how to make all that happen. It was too much. So I just let some of that go. I was like, well, I'm in survival mode here. Got to keep a roof over the house. Got to make sure I'm staying, the whole story. Contact with the kids, yada, yada, yada. And so I started, I finally got a job. This is crazy. Bartending at this big club. It was a motel, and it had a pool out there. And it was right on the water. And they named the pool bar after me, Kimball's Grand Poobah, because I love the Flintstones.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I was the manager, like I was the boss of the whole show. And my boss let me bring my 3 kids there for the whole 5 years that I worked there every summer to
Wow.
play in the pool and be by the water. And I didn't have to pay for daycare. And it's just an amazing experience. And it was such a blessing, for all of us to have that,
Mm-hmm.
And I quit the health food store and, I only had to focus on this one job. I was still working a lot, but it really helped to, narrow in focus on this one thing. So, as I moved forward, things went good for quite a while. Really, we had some ups and downs. My middle husband, or my first husband, he took Elijah Blue away for like 6 years, kidnapped him to California, and that was horrible. Um, but I got him back, and I knew if I told my ex-husband he could have custody as soon as my son Elijah got here. He was 12. I knew he wasn't going back, and he didn't. You know, because he was being abused there, and he wasn't being treated properly. And anyway, so about 33, I started having a breakdown again because I started remembering
That's
a
what I was
lot,
going to ask. Yeah. Is that why? Yeah.
a lot of stuff. And I could barely keep my head above water. I call it a functioning nervous breakdown because I had 3 teenagers, you know, 13, 15, and 17. And you know what? Teenagers really almost need more attention than little children at that point. Like it's just wild. You know, they really need that guidance and
Yeah.
that
It's more
ground.
of the conversation than it is the care. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so I've had a lot of shame about and guilt that I couldn't give that to them because I think it had a bad influence on them. But it wasn't my fault.
No.
It wasn't my fault. And I'm going to cry because
Yeah. I'll
it took
pick
me
up.
a long.
I'll talk while you cry for a second and think about how you want to. But one of the things that I deal with on a regular basis with anyone, any parent, I mean, even parents that did everything that they could, or like you, it was more uh, the circumstances caused it. I do really do believe that it is a trick of the devil, and he really wants you to have that guilt and shame. And so I encourage everybody to think of it like you're sitting at a bar with Satan, and he's like, "Here, take this shot of guilt, or take this shot of shame, because if you do, I win." So
Yeah, exactly. And you're right because whenever that comes up, I hear my sons tell me, "Stop it, mom, stop it."
yeah, good sons. That's awesome. I like that.
And I'm like, "Okay," because I can hear their voices.
Yeah, and
They
people
speak.
don't know that you've lost your sons yet. So I'm just going to interject that when she says she's hearing their voices, she means like across the veil.
Yes, yes, and yes, and so then I do. And but anyway, so it, um, I couldn't, I lost jobs. I couldn't keep jobs. It was hard to, keep it together and blah, blah, blah. And so,
Were you self-medicating or like doing any kind of drugs or alcohol?
um, occasionally I was drinking a lot of wine,
Right,
but it was like I couldn't sleep. It was
right.
the only thing that could help because I couldn't drink wine during the day. I had so much to do. It wasn't and I'm not judging people for that. I'm just
Yeah, right,
saying
right.
for me, it was at night to like go to sleep, and that's not a good thing either. That's not a good thing. But I understand why people do it, you know.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, and and I've always used cannabis, but I think it's a sacrament, and I think if you abuse it, it's just like anything else. You
Yes.
know, it's a sacrament, and it needs to be taken that way. It can be an escape thing too. And but anyway, but it helped me to calm down because I was such a nervous wreck, you know, and I didn't want to take pills.
Yeah.
That felt completely crazy, you know. I
Did you
knew
have,
the
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you have anyone to talk to about these things or to say, hey, Aunt so and so, do you think this is true? Or, Uncle, whatever, did you see you dad doing this? Or was there anyone to validate or vent to?
Well, I went to my aunt at that age, both my aunts, and I told them, and they said, "So what?"
Wow. Was
Basically,
it
who cares?
your mom's sister or your dad's sister?
My dad's sister-in-law's
Oh,
sister.
that so surprises me that that was their reaction.
Yeah, they said, "Get over it. It doesn't matter." And my one aunt in particular was very evil, and she had me sign over my entire inheritance the minute I turned 18 to my dad. The house that we were in was supposed to be mine, and I mean, I can just go into some crazy stuff that this woman has done, you know, and they're multimillionaires. It's not like they even needed the money, you know. And even when my dad died, she ended up getting over $500,000. And
Wow.
I didn't know until later that when you're adopted, they can't do that. You almost have more rights as an adoptee to your parents, you know, money than even as a normal child. And I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't
Interesting.
know that. But it was too late. But it's okay because God's going to, you know, take care of all that. I'm good.
Yeah.
And I thought about it too. Like, you know, I'm kind of glad I didn't get that money because that money was like yucky money, yucky money. And I want good, godly money, you know. Uh,
I want the God pipeline of cash.
yeah, I want the golden cash, you know.
That's so cute. And so
Yeah.
you're 33, you're starting to have that pressure from the stress of taking care of three children, running a bar, doing all this stuff. And then on top of it, now you're starting to have these nightmare memories coming back.
Yes, and my children did not know what to think. They're like, what in the world is going on here, you know? And I could not tell them. I could only tell them like this much.
Right.
You know, I couldn't tell them.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell them. And um, I about we went through a lot of sort of weird stuff, and my two youngest boys, or my two boys, they started getting into things that were not good. I think from their pain of seeing me go through pain, and I'll kind of explain some of that later when I explain their deaths. But anyway, so fast forward, and I realized that I needed to leave that actual town.
Right.
That if I was going to get move past this, I had to like just leave and not see these people, think about these people, whatever. So me and my middle son, we moved up to Asheville, North Carolina, which I'm right outside of that right now,
So beautiful. I
further
love
out in
it.
the mountains. Yeah, further out in the mountains. And so we came up here, and I started my own cleaning business, and he started his own painting business. And I was into all kinds of green things. I made my own cleaning supplies, yada, 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 and I
Wow, you were
subcontract.
ahead of your time. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you still sell the cleaning supplies?
No, I don't, but I use them. I use them. I make a lot of stuff, and just
Cool.
there's so many things we can use,
Yeah.
that it's stuff that people used to use a long time ago, really.
Yes. We should do a show about that sometime.
Yeah, it is. It's like old stuff that people think is new, and it's really kind of not.
Yeah.
We're just sort of remembering it or bringing it up now, and but so we came here, and wow, this is the hard part. And I'll tell you real quick though, I kind of got into some therapy when I was up here to begin with, but I've had difficulty finding therapists. Like, and I'm not saying this like I'm a genius, but honestly, some of them don't know a flip and flap thing, you know. And I was like, wow, I'm up here and you're over here, and I'm like telling you stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm a freaking genius, but
No, and let me tell you, Gina Phillips, who I consider like the most renowned therapist for integrating all of this crazy SRA stuff and including deliverance and everything. I mean, she's having a hard time training people to be able to handle all of the need there is. It's amazing.
yeah, it is, it is. And so about, oh, I don't know, 2 years after we moved here, my middle son went to Seattle to pursue his music career. And he was a djembe player, and he could play piano by ear. He could just sit down and play a song. It was wild. And not even, he didn't even have any training or anything. He could just, you know, it was wild. So he went there, and a year later, um, this might be shocking for some people. So, you know, just giving that heads up, you know, if they don't want to listen, you know. Of course, we're diving deep into some shocking stuff anyway, but he, he lit his truck on fire, and he climbed in and he burned himself alive. And he had been doing a lot of acid for years. And I kept telling him, son, you know, I realize that you're delving in, and you're aware and you want to go to different dimensions, but you can do that without these things. You can do that naturally, which we can.
Right.
We can. We can do that naturally. And nature is all around us to access those different, you know, dimensions, whatever you want to call them, you know.
Right. Right.
God, you know, it's natural, you know, and we have to have respect for that, but we can do that, you know. And but anyway, you know, of course, you know, being an adult, he didn't listen to me. And he came to me. It took me 4 days to figure out what the heck happened to him, but I knew, like intuitively, something was bad. Something bad had happened. And so, and you know, um, and this might sound weird to some people, but I was at my house, and I don't know what you want to call it. Some people call it astral traveling. I don't know what you want to call it. I call it mother's intuition. I went and you know, and I saw him he lived in a truck, you know, that had a bed, and he had a wood stove, and he was living in it, you know.
Right.
And I saw him laying down with his head down, and he was covered in smoke, and it was black, completely black. And I was like, because
So
the
that's
people
how
that were,
you found out was from just intuiting it.
yeah,
Wow.
because all the police and stuff kept telling me he was in an accident, and I was like, no, that's not it. I don't know if they were lying to me because they were afraid it was going to freak me out. You know, I don't know that. All I know is when I saw that, I was like, no, that's not an accident. And so I kept calling back and telling them that and saying, let me talk to the next person because this is not the truth. And I need the truth, you know? And if anything, I am persistent. I don't give up. I don't give in, you know? And so anyway, so I got to the truth, and the lady told me, and I was like, oh my God. And I guess maybe a year later, a young girl wrote to me and told me she was there and she saw my son.
Oh.
And she saw the whole thing. And it was very traumatic for her to witness it. And she couldn't contact me for that year, you know. And I was so grateful to her, you know, and because she gave me a key into what happened. And he also, you know, which might sound strange to people, he came to me that night, and I'd never talked to a dead person before. And but I saw him, and he was covered in black, and he had his hat on like he always does. And it wasn't like he was a dark entity. It was like the smoke, I don't know how to explain it, was still surrounding his body, you know. I don't know how to explain it, but and it was like chirping sounds, but telepathically I could hear the words. I don't know any other way to explain it. So, and he said to me, Mom, you know, and some people say people choose these things, but that's not what my son said to me. He said, Mom, it was an accident. I didn't know what I was doing. I was out of my mind. And he said, I'm so sorry, for what this has done to you. Because he knew that, whoa, wow, I wanted to die. And that day I found out people had to stop me from getting matches and burning my freaking trailer up on fire.
Wow.
Because that's what I was going to do. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. This is it. I'm going with my son. I'm going back to God because this is some crazy stuff right here, and I don't want to be here.
It does. It gets heavy. It gets heavy. That's why that connection to Christ is so important. That candle that you lit when you were 5 years old at that Catholic school, it really did keep you alive.
And that's what happened. I said, when I pulled myself back together, I went to Jesus and I said, look, and I talked to Jesus like he's my friend. And some people might call that disrespectful, but Jesus don't feel that way to me. He's like my best friend. And I swear, and I just beat Kimball, and he's like, that's cool. And I said, wow, this is some really messed up stuff. I
Right.
need your help. I really need your help. And he took me to another place for like a couple of weeks. And like I wasn't here. And I didn't want to come back. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And he was like, and God was telling me that, um, it's not time for you. It's not your time. But I'm with you and it's going to be okay. And you're going to get through this, you know. And I heard, a powerful message that I was supposed to do this and I was supposed to talk about this. Compassion leads to forgiveness, leads to unconditional love.
Yes, yes, yes. I joke with people every once in a while. Somebody will do something that'll just thrill me, and I'll be like, I am so conditionally in love with you right now. Because I like for people to understand the difference, it's really important to know how often we veer from unconditional love. And you're right, I love the progression, the compassion that leads to forgiveness, that leads to unconditional love. It's amazing. But just for people that might have just tuned in, I mean, this woman had 4 children, and we are now on the second death, or
Yes.
you don't really know what happened to your first baby, right? You don't know if it was killed
I
or
just,
hidden away.
I don't think it was like, I think it was alive when it was born and they lied. And because I've done a lot of research in this and they do this in these hospitals. And I mean, I was only, like 20 years old.
Right.
And I believed anything doctors told me, like a lot of us, you know,
People still do.
people still do. And I was in labor and you can go into labor a month early and the baby be perfectly fine.
Oh, absolutely. My daughter was 6.5 weeks early, and she didn't go into NICU or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have some sort of record proof, but I feel it. I'm a feeler,
Well,
you know.
and then you know how the boys you said have come to you across the veil. Has the baby ever come to you across the veil?
Um, he's with his brothers. That's what I always get.
Okay.
Um, to be honest, sometimes it's hard for me to talk to him because it hurts. I'm still as a mother, it makes me cry a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think sometimes I don't get messages because I'm still in pain and they tell me that too, like the older ones are like, we can't get to you because you're still in that thing. And I'm like, okay, so it's a process and I'm working on that, but I'm
And
human
so
and I'm a mother.
yes. And how old was that son when he committed suicide?
He was 33.
33. Okay.
Hmm. And so I lost my mind when I came back, I was like, oh, okay, really? Okay, God, I don't want to come back. And that's a really hard thing you're asking me to do right now. Like, right now, you're asking me to do that? Like, right now, of all times? And God was like, yep, right now. And I said, okay. And I said, Jesus, look, dude, I'm going to need some serious help on this one, And it was like, don't worry, I'm right here with you. Don't worry, just call on me. I just always know that that's his message to me, call on me and I'll be with you, like right there, And I've had mediums tell me that they can see Christ behind me every time they talk to me. And I know that. And I know that my sons are there, and my dogs that have passed away that I loved so deeply, their spirits are there. They are. And
Yeah.
some of us just can't see it or feel it, but I'm blessed that I can.
Mhm.
And so I also had like an accident. I fell down some stairs and hurt my back. And with the death of my son, I just was like, wow, I can't work anymore. So I had to get on disability and everything sort of fell apart, for a while. And I even ended up living in my car for about 8 months. And being the little hippie I was, I had a blast. A
For
blast.
real? You liked being homeless? I think we should divert for a minute. I want to hear about this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I lived in my tiny car. I had my son's dogs, one of his dogs. The other one had passed away. Elijah Blue, his dog Magic, and she was a 120-pound lab Akita mix, and she was powerful, powerful dog, and she was magic. And so I ended up having to live in my car due to some circumstances in this little town here close to where I'm at.
Mhm.
And there was a park. And at the time, you could park your car and, nobody said anything. It's a little bit different now,
Right.
as we see things. Some things are constricted, baloney and all that. But at the time, so I was right next to the railroad track and the water, and then the mountains were in front of me. And I had this beautiful area of a lawn and all this stuff, and I was like, hey, this is cool. I
Yeah.
can deal with this. I'm out in the woods. I can see nature. I had my disability check. I had a good car. I had my dog. And it was funny because I used to go into the little cafe and, I just try to have fun with stuff. And I would say, and a lot of people say I'm silly, but that word in Greek means blessed. So yeah, I'm very silly.
That's
I'm
good to know. I
absolutely,
like that. Thank you for
yeah.
teaching me that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely silly. And so I would go into the restaurant and I would say, well, my gardeners come when the city people would come and mow the grass. I would say, I had to leave while the gardeners are doing my yard. And they're like, what are you talking about? That's
They're
not
like,
your
"Oh,
yard.
that's that cute homeless lady. She's hilarious."
Yeah, yeah. She's kind of out there, but she's got good intentions. Because that's how I saw it.
Mhm, mhm.
Like,
It's so
this
much
was
perspective. It is so much perspective. Yes.
It really is. And I mean, I've volunteered since I was 13. That's been my whole thing in life. I volunteered at a thrift store at a Catholic church when I was 13, and it's crazy because I'm back at another thrift store and I worked at one here for 4 years, with the food bank and homeless people. And it's just kind of been a theme through my whole life.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I have a lot of compassion for homeless people. And just because I was able to rock it, I don't I
I
don't
love that
judge
you say that you rocked homelessness.
it.
That's awesome. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, right?
safety first.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't want other people to feel bad if they don't. Again, compassion. I understand if it was difficult. I'm here for you,
Right.
kind of thing. and saying, yes, I've been there, and this is how you can maybe look at it different, and I can help you to progress out of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And look at it, like you said, from a different way, you know.
Yeah.
And so I got into a place, and I was just, after 5 years, I'm just kind of getting settled again and feeling like, wow, you know, I'm kind of having some peace about my sons, and then my youngest son. I found out he died from an overdose of heroin, and he's
Oh,
been struggling with it for,
was it
15
right
years.
after the 33-year-old died that
5 years, 5 years,
later?
5 years in between. I mean, I was just feeling like, whew, wow, you know, and he dies.
I can't even. I can't even.
Yeah. And it was horrible too, because his family was evil. The ex-husband's, that family was evil, and the uncle didn't even tell me. And my son was on life support for 2 days, and I could have gone and been with him, and he didn't tell me. And he signed the papers to have him cremated, which that was illegal because I was the closest relative, and he lied to them. And he had a girlfriend that was a judge, and they did all kind of crazy, mean, hateful stuff.
Wow.
And sends me my son's ashes and some pictures like, hey, oh, by the way, you know and I was like, what?
Wow. That is, I never thought about that, but if you're divorced, do parents have to agree to that if they don't have like some sort of, directives in place?
Well, it wasn't even my ex-husband. He was already dead. It was his brother.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't the closest relative. It was me. I
Yes.
was the mother. I was the closest relative.
Got it. Yeah, how does that happen?
Because they're corrupt. He had a girlfriend that was a judge, and she went in, and I don't know what she did, but as the corruption.
Yeah.
It's just another level of corruption.
Wow.
And that's what I meant when I spoke to you earlier. These drugs, the cabal bring in for these children and make it so available and put out this lie that it's, a little bit is okay and blah, 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 and prey on the innocents. And it's so dark and evil. And I'm calling it out.
Call it
I'm
out.
calling it out, and a lot of people, like I heard Miss Peck talking, that a lot of people didn't want to hear it. I'm sorry. You need to hear it. I'm sorry. Everybody needs to hear it. We need to look at this. We need to shine a light on this. And if for those of us that are brave enough that have been doing it, we can help those, but those people got to look at it too. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why this has been going on.
Right, because people aren't looking at it. Or like your aunts, when the truth is told to them, it's so heavy. They're like, get over it. And that was exactly, I don't know if you watched the one I did with Cheryl Beck yesterday, but she had a
I
picture
did.
in the bed. And one of the captions that she had that people said was, get over it.
Yeah. Oh, I hear that all the time from family members, that, and, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, seriously. And it makes me very upset that people say that, because it takes a lot.
Yeah. How old were you when your dad died?
I was like 45, and he was much older too. He was like 80. So they were like 40 when they adopted me.
Wow.
And, but, uh, you know, I think he abused my cousin, and my cousin was abused by her cousin. And she told me, and she would never tell anybody else.
Right.
But her and my father, like he called her and he would go to her house, and and she had him on speed dial and crap. I think he was abusing her. I mean,
Uh,
like, I know he was. Let me just put that in there. I know he was.
and so did he ever, because you said he was also a Mason, did he ever bring you to any of the type of things that Cheryl or Jesse talk about? Or was it all just at home and just private?
I don't think he did.
Okay.
I don't have any memories of that. I mean, the motel, I remember a lot being taken there, but I just remember him and then some of the maids, you know. But I don't have any memories of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any memories of that.
Well, and
But
it's so
it started as soon as he got me, you know, right at 2.5. I mean, it was wow, right there, you know.
well,
And I know they were trafficking children out of that cottage. I know they were.
oh wow.
Guess what the name of that cottage was?
The cottage that he made behind your house?
No, the place that they adopted me from,
Oh, okay.
it was called Ghoul Cottage.
Okay, that's right. You did say that. And it's ghoul, like the traditional like spelling for like a spirit or a ghost.
Yeah, but that was those people's name that ran it. But I don't think that's any coincidence. I'm
No.
sorry.
I don't either. I
So
don't
thank you.
either. And so you might not have been the only child that was trafficked through that. So it wasn't like maybe necessarily an adoption as much as it was a kidnapping, even possibly.
Yes, that's what I'm feeling. That's exactly what I'm feeling. Yes. And I've drove by, and that place has got some serious bad vibes.
Yeah.
Serious,
Does it still
serious bad.
exist?
Not now, but the building is still there. And you know, this was years ago, but yeah, really
Somebody
bad
needs
vibe.
to bring the anointing oil there.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely, you know. And so when my youngest son died, wow, I was right back to like just on my, I've had to reinvent myself like over and start my life over and over and over again, you know. And that's okay because God has been with me through it. Like with God, all things are possible, you know.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's my message, you know.
It's beautiful. Thank you. And so tell us, when you say that, the whole piece about you reinventing yourself, that's the same words I use. So of course, I didn't go through the tragedy that you've gone through. I had my own, things that happened, but I really did feel like it was a conscious choice to renew myself, to live up to the things that I was supposed to live up to. What advice do you have for people either overcoming trauma or reinventing themselves?
Wow, that's a complex, deep question. Um, what I've learned is there's many ways,
Hmm.
you know. For me personally, what I did was, like I said, I talked to Jesus. I talked to Jesus, and some people, you know, I'm aware there's other ways, and I respect that. You know, I do. But for me, I talk to Jesus. I talk to God. I wait for messages from God. You know, I go out in nature. Nature is real. You know, God created nature. You know, it's so intricate, so beautiful. There's so many messages from there you can get. You know, like you were saying. I think maybe it was you that take your shoes off, lay on the earth, feel her.
Yeah.
You know, feel that. You know, that's godly. You know, and um study Christ's life. You know, he didn't take any nonsense. He didn't take any nonsense.
He did not.
He just did not. And sometimes, you have to be willing to die for the truth, and I am willing to die because I'm not afraid of death. you
Yeah.
know and if I gotta live in a world where I can't speak this truth because I'm afraid, no, I'm sorry. But I understand if other people are. I don't want to like make them be bad either.
Right.
you know. But all I'm saying is, if I can do it, I always tell people, I'm just a grandma, I'm just Kimball. I'm just simple, and if I can do it this way with God, with the teachings of Christ,
Yeah,
then I think you can too, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. I do think there's a level of faith that comes to people who can answer that question the way you did, and that is that the truth is so important that I'm not afraid of death.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not afraid of death. I mean, no. I'd rather live free,
Yeah.
you know.
Did your
And we are.
Yeah. Did your dad do any mixing of the church as being, good bads, or using it when he, was a predator towards you, like the way Cheryl talks about, or Jesse, where they invert the good and the bad?
No, I mean, they sent me to Catholic school, but they weren't really involved in, the church aspect of it.
Right.
I guess they kind of did that to, whatever. That's the right thing to do with your kids,
Right.
But I never really felt any of that from him. He was just a predator,
Yeah.
and he was just evil, and dark, and possessed. He was freaking possessed.
Yeah.
He was freaking possessed, you know.
Yes.
And that whole family was like, I don't know if they're lineage or whatever. I don't know about that. All I know is that this kind of stuff tends to run in groups. I
Yes.
found.
Yes.
I'm not an expert, but yeah, there's a lot in that whole thing that I was like, whoa.
Which might be why your aunts, who were actually technically in-laws, they were probably very similar to your mom. They might have been so beat down that there was nothing that they could do other than tell you to get over it. When your mom, do you think your mom ever got peace before her death?
Um,
'Cause they were still married when she died, right?
yeah, she died of emphysema, and uh, I mean, I pray and hope that I brought her peace because I waited on her hand and foot.
Yeah.
I mean, I treated her like a queen because I knew how much she was suffering, and she couldn't speak for herself.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just felt compelled, and again, Jesus would always tell me, be nice to her. This is not her fault, you
Yeah.
know, that
Yeah.
she
That's
can't
so
look up
sweet of
for
you.
you,
And that she
you know.
had her cute daughter taking care of her the way that you did. It's just beautiful. What a blessing.
It was an honor to be of service. My life has always been about service to others. And it's always an honor, to do that. I mean, I don't know. That's just, volunteer has been my theme through my whole life. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Any
I
way
think
I can, you know,
yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
there's some people that really are born with this extra ability to consider more people than themselves, you know? And it can be in a simple thing like, can I help you open the door or carry your, luggage or whatever it is, but there's just some people that actually get that we really are one body and that we really are here to be of service to each other. But the one thing about you is you seem to have a lot of energy.
I can be very flamboyant, as they say. And you know what's interesting? A lot of people want to shut me up. And they'll tell me, you're too loud. You're too this. You're too that, And as I've gotten older, and unfortunately, it's in some people that I really love. And I'm just, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I really don't care anymore.
I'm going to be loud and obnoxious.
I gotta be loud.
Yeah.
And because loud is a good thing. That's my personality. I'm happy. Okay, I want to dance. I have a loud voice. Whatever. And my loudness I feel has brought a lot of freedom to a lot of people because in telling my story loud, it
Voice.
has allowed other people to tell their stories. And
Yeah.
that's the loud thing that I'm about. I'm not loud to be, you know, to drown other people out. I'm loud to allow other people to be like that. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. And as a matter of fact, I think that's the perfect thing to end on. Tell us or give advice to anyone that's listening that is considering sharing their story. And don't get me wrong, telling your story doesn't have to happen. It is up to you. It's private. It's between you and God. But should they want to have a voice in this, what advice do you have for them?
I just always say, take it to God. Take it to God. Pray about it, sit on it, take it to God, talk, and then sit back and listen, because I can't make those decisions for other people,
Right.
All I can do is share my story, but if you don't mind, I'd like to say one last thing.
You say as many things as you want.
If we have time, this past year, this is about Trump. And this past year, when this fake virus thing came, like I knew it wasn't real, and I was like, wow, this is tyranny. This is not about this virus. But I didn't know. I never watched politics. I never voted. Oh, I didn't pay attention to Trump. I knew they were all a bunch of idiots and morons. I knew that, and so, but God tapped me on the shoulder and said, you need to look at this man. And I was like, okay. And I started looking at it. And I was like, wow, this is the first man that stood up for child trafficking.
Yeah, that's what Cheryl said yesterday, and I didn't put those. I didn't realize he was so powerful in that.
Very powerful in that, very powerful. And I would recommend for anybody that kind of wants to understand the Q team and Trump from a biblical viewpoint, go to Melissa Redpill's channel, Freedom Force Battalion. She breaks it down biblically, the Q, everything. You will feel so much peace. It will all make sense. And it's just, she's a powerful woman and she's very simple and easy to understand. But, you know,
That's so
um,
cool.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
President Trump always says, never give up, never give in. The best is yet to come. And that is absolute the truth.
I love it. I think we end on that. Thank you so much for your time and your story and your bravery and your voice and your energy and your great attitude and rocking homelessness and making everything cool that you do. You're an absolute delight.
Thank you so much. You are as well. And I'm very pleased, honored, and blessed to have had this opportunity. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day in the trees, dear.
Oh, I will. Me and Maria, we're going to do some dancing.
All right. Thanks everybody for